Well, I'm very happy to be here. I love Urban Rethink, and I've been excited to see its growth. And hello from Florida Hospital. And I'm not a healthcare person, so I have to say that sometimes when the different challenges that come into the Innovation Lab, I say, really, that happens at the hospital? Some of the challenges maybe in surgery, I've learned that what goes on a hospital might not always be what you think, but Florida Hospital is really an amazing place doing some amazing things. And we also have a team member, one of our innovation team members back in the back, Kathy. I'm happy to see her here. But what is really cool about the Innovation Lab is that it addresses a very, very simple thing: moving beyond your habitual ways of thinking and acting. And for example, Florida Hospital launched the Healthy 100 program, and they thought they were going to have everyone just sign up. Everyone wants to live to 100. But as they got rolling, everyone didn't sign up. And so the Healthy 100 team came in and said, can we do an innovation project to actually build our program? We think we need more health coaches. If we had more health coaches, we could actually get more people involved. And we said, well, just wait a second. Come in, run a project, but suspend judgment. Do not look to any solutions. Go with an open mind, open heart, open will, and just see what's out there. Draw some empathy on what the end users, what they need, what they say they need, and what some things they need that they're not saying. So as they went out, they discovered people were saying, we don't want to live to be 100. We see people coming in here at 80, and we don't want to stretch that on for 20 years. And so they then start organizing around a different project, helping people visualize living to 100. But it took a very simple thing: pushing beyond their initial thinking, what their problem was. Now, I first encountered this concept, pushing beyond what I thought, moving beyond biases, in a very unusual way, and I almost missed it. Have you ever been surprised by creativity? That you think one thing and actually there's something else? When I was in college, I was a communication major, and in our department, there was this girl, Sharon, who came from Southern California. Our college is in the Napa Valley, and Sharon was the coolest person I've ever seen. She was on the radio. That's when radio was cool. When disc jockeys were really the thing. She had published. She was beautiful. She wore clothes from New York, and guys fell all over her. I said, this is what I think it means to be a communication major. And then we had Dina in the department. Dina came from Iowa. She drove a Gremlin. Some of you might not really know what a Gremlin is. And her clothes, she said her grandmother had made. And everything I thought about a communication major, Dina did not embody. In fact, if I wrote a book about what it meant to be a communication major, Sharon would have been the hero. So when our year started, the chairman of the department called us together and said, we always do something interesting to kick off the year. And so what are some ideas? And so someone said, go to a movie. Someone said, go out to eat. But Dina said, why don't we write a script, make a movie about city slickers trying to survive on a farm, and we can shoot it on the farm that was down in the Napa Valley. Well, after all that, the event, the chairman said we had never had a more fun event. And then later in the year, when we needed to raise some money, Dina had been working at the Napa Register, and she said, I've been hearing that they're short-staffed this year on journalists to cover the openings of the wineries, and that maybe some of us communication majors could go down and help as they do their yearly openings, because wineries have yearly openings, and where they bless the wine, and we could take pictures and cover the stories. And so she went around to the wineries And this was really before the Napa Valley really got charged up. And so she talked to the wineries and they said, that'd be great. And so we had the opportunity to go down and cover some of these openings. And along with getting $25 for doing it, they gave us a bottle of wine. But some of us were under 21, and so we had to agree to give the wine to the editor of the Napa Register. And so then, a little later in the year, as our experience went on, we were supposed to put together some kind of project to help around campus, or that would reach out to the community. And Dina thought, you know, up in the Napa Valley, our college is up in the mountains, it's very expensive, as you know. And a lot of couples were getting married on campus at the end of the school year. And she said, why don't we put together a service that we could use the college bakery for the cake, we could use some photographers in the classes for the photographer for the wedding, we could use some of the just different services around, there's the floral service right on campus, and it would cost a lot less for people to actually have their weddings here. And so she put that together, and then she started pushing it around campus, and she had 12 people sign up right away. And Dina then was written up in the paper as quite an entrepreneur. And then she was going to continue pushing that on the next year, but when she went back that summer to her home in Iowa, she was hit by a ram, one of her rams on the farm, and broke her leg, so Dina didn't come back the next year. Well, in the fall of our senior year, again, the professor asked, our chairman asked, what should we do to kick off our year as communication majors? Again, someone said, we can go to a movie, we can go out to eat. And it was at that point I noticed that we were missing a voice. And I realized at that point, some of the best ideas we had come from Dina. And I had been with Dina for 3 years in our department, and always, every time she had an idea, okay, Dina, whatever. But when she wasn't with us, we really had missed something. And it was at that moment, as I looked around us, and we said, for our kickoff of the year, going to a movie, going out to eat, really? We can't do any better than that? And I realized that I'd actually almost missed something. And so from a very unlikely source in my own mind, in my own superficial mind, I almost had missed what Dina had brought. And Dina has gone on to work overseas. Her and her husband, when Cambodia had fallen and all that was going on, she and her husband had worked to get some bulls over to that area where they could actually start producing herds of cows for the different villages. And she'd worked with the governor of Thailand. And so I realized, as I grew older and hopefully less superficial, that ideas come in packages that we don't expect. And if we always wait for it to be how we expect, we will miss the best things in life. And I know I'm talking to a very creative group of people. And so you probably are doing amazing things in your life. But every one of us has a Dina. Every one of us has something that we are not pushing beyond our habitual ways of thinking and acting that's blocking our complete full potential. So I want to encourage everybody today to identify who your Dina is, what your beliefs or your maybe ideas that are blocking you from really moving forward. So all of us, before you lay your head on your pillow tonight to go to sleep, identify what is a Dina in your life and see what you can do to move beyond your habitual ways of thinking and acting so you can ignite the creativity that's in you and embrace the potential and live to your full capacity. Thank you.
Can you talk about your innovation lab? What does it do? It seems a little unusual to have it in a hospital. So
Yes.
I'm just curious about what that
And
does.
it's a very exciting thing, actually. And as Kathy can attest, when we opened the lab 8 months ago, people said, different healthcare workers, can we really come in here and say what we think? And what it is, it's an innovation lab that is designed to, for everybody in the hospital. Anyone can come in. It's a very unique lab in that sense that if you have an idea as something you think can be done better, it's voices and ideas from everywhere. And it's, we have a process actually that helps, we have facilitators, so if you come in, you actually can be helped through the process. We are based on the concept, our philosophy comes from the Pre-Sensing Institute, Dr. Otto Scharmer, Theory U, where we come in with a challenge, we co-discover, so we are pushed beyond our habitual ways of thinking and acting. We co-discover as we, like the Healthy 100 people, then we become inspired what we need to do as we discover what really is out there. Then we co-create it and co-evolve it. And that moves beyond hierarchy and that we can work together. And then the model we use is design thinking. And you're familiar with design thinking? It's becoming very well known. But it actually comes out of Stanford, well, Dave Kelly, IDEO, where it begins with empathy. We don't go to solve any problem until we really stop and see what is going on with the end user. And, oh, okay. And so you, like the Healthy 100 I told you about, they go out and see what really is the issue, and they define the problem from there, ideate, brainstorm, rapid prototyping, fail fast and cheap, and stay very relevant, strong feedback loops. So anyone can come into the lab, and we have the projects aligned with the 4 priorities, and we get what we call the power source. Whoever the supervisor, director, manager that oversees that area, and they give permission. The CEO has said he wants everyone working in there, and they come in. We have a cross-functional team, and we move forward. Right now, we have about 48 projects, and we've seen some amazing transformations on things.
Is there anything else you can talk about?
I know that's always the thing.
I know,
I know that is actually the thing that HIPAA. But there are some things we can talk about. We can talk about that I've been so impressed with people in healthcare. I don't come from a healthcare background. The dedication, the long hours, the hard work, and that the world starts operating very, very early in healthcare. And so our lab accommodates that. I've been there at 5:30 in the morning to accommodate physicians and 11 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night. But the whole goal is we know healthcare is facing we don't even know what's going to happen with healthcare, really. So the goal is to create solutions that reduce the cost of healthcare while improving patient experience. And some examples would be patient financial services. As you know, that's not always the most popular part of healthcare. They were having some struggles with collections, and so they came in with a project. They said, we want to come and actually improve our collections, and they said, we're not professional enough. We don't dress. We need to dress more in even more professional than we're dressing. And as they went out and that's what they thought they needed to do, but as they went out and talked to patients and nurses, they discovered that patients said, you guys scare us. You're the only people that come down the hall that we can hear coming with your stiletto heels. And you come in your black suits, and what do these guys want to do? And nurses actually were misunderstanding the patient financial service people because they had compassion for their patients, and they oftentimes would arrange for them to be out of the ED room or the hospital rooms before patient financial services arrived because of the cost. But as they started educating nurses, and this is if ever you go to the hospital, keep this in mind. If the patient financial service can work with you, they actually have a lot of ways to help you. But if they can't talk to you, it's like a university financial aid person. And so then they really totally revamp their system to become more like a university financial aid officer. It's made a tremendous difference. Nurses feel better, patients feel better, they feel better. They dress now in soft-soled shoes. It's more like t-shirts. They look much more like a friendly human being coming in. And there's just, what we've been so amazed about is solutions that have solved just as unintended consequences. Groups are working together, cross-functional teams, as they're talking, something like, oh, that's a problem you're having? Well, we can help you with that. Like, for example, there was a group on revolutionizing the way they're drawing blood. Well, as the cross-functional team was together, some nurses on one wing needed to have blood drawn at different times, and the phlebotomy group they needed to have more people to practice on. And they were struggling with that. Well, as they talked, the nurses said, we can provide all kinds of people. And so it's a lesson when we just communicate with people. So in our lab, we have a saying from Margot Wheatley that says, a conversation is still the best problem-solving tool. And if we just will communicate. And the CEO, sometimes we've laughed that projects come in and all of a sudden things get better, and we haven't even gotten to the solution yet. And we said, we don't really know why. It's just when people start talking, it's amazing what can happen. So never be afraid to talk, to reach out, to connect.
What kind of people are on your team? Like, what is the innovation environment?
We have, we're prototyping, continually prototyping. We started out with the idea that we would have, well, the CEO put out an email, Kathy, you can correct me on this if I misspeak, an email to the whole hospital who would like to be on an innovation team. We're launching Innovation Lab, and we're going to we're going to have some of you help us build it. And so about 600 people replied saying, yes, I want to be on this. And then they put some of the parameters in. It was going to take quite a few hours, and et cetera, et cetera. And so then they called for a second group. About 150 responded and said, yes, we're still interested. And they chose 12 people from that who were directors, managers, frontline people. It was a very diverse team. And we started talking. And I had actually just finished a PhD, or was finishing a PhD in innovation and creativity. And so we had the honor and the deep privilege to have connected with a lot of innovation labs around the world. And so we modeled this lab, taking pieces from different labs. But the significant thing is, I think it's safe to say we are very unique in that anyone can come in, and we've built a process where they can get up to speed very fast. In some of the labs, you have to take classes. You have to be working. Some of the P&G labs, J&J's labs, you have to actually be assigned there as a work with Kaiser. You have to be working in the lab. Someone will tell you a problem, or the problems will come to that group. Our model is that anyone can come in, and we have facilitators. But our initial idea was that these 12 people would facilitate. We got busy, and the hospital's a lot busier. And so now we actually have some people that just do facilitating. But we keep growing, and we keep sort of morphing. But what we're really excited about is, and we use a lot of applied improv with design thinking. And believe me, I thought it was a good idea at first. But to get doctors and people who are not used to doing improv and live in a world that's highly processed, highly regulated, lawsuits hanging over their head, to come in and improv, it's like, really? I have, remember, Kathy and I one morning were running a brainstorming or ideation group for doctors. We wanted to get feedback on the core team needed feedback from more people. So we have what we call these power hours. We'll have, we would invite all you in and tell you the challenge and give us feedback. Well, these doctors came in. We were honored to have them. We had food there for them, and they said, okay, you guys, come on. We've got face has just been blown off. Got to get back to surgery. We have 30 seconds. What do you need? And I looked over at Kathy and I said, okay, I don't think this improv idea is going to go over really well. But interestingly enough, we stay true to our process. We have a badge tree over on the one wall that when you come in, you hang your badge to symbolize voices from anywhere, that we're equal. And in a hospital, that might be hard for some of you to imagine. If you haven't lived in a hospital system, it's very hierarchical, which that's just how it is. So we have a badge tree, and as a very blatant reminder that we are moving beyond position and we're all coming as one voice. Anyway, these doctors, as we got going, who had 30 seconds. 59 minutes later, we're just engaged and talking and saying, you know, when do you need us back? And so sometimes we have to be really courageous. We have to push beyond our habitual thinking and acting to really show a process that people have never really engaged with and they can't understand it. But we've found if we stay true, even when we're getting pushback from the group, they go to places they never imagined they could be. And one thing we have to do, and with the facilitators, we have to continually remind them to be courageous. Because when you, say, get a group of nurses that are used to just working very rapidly and we know the solution, we just need to do it. And we say, wait, just hold off, let's get a little more empathy, let's go talk. It takes courage sometimes to, well, it always takes courage to go down the innovative path because we're pushing beyond what is existing. And when we have facilitators who can hold the space and not let it be hijacked by the concept that we just have to get on with it. There's no time to talk. We just have to get this solution done. And we say, just trust us, trust the process. It always works. We found when we can't be courageous, we actually sell the team short. And that in the end, we say, no, you know, we just have to be true to them, even though they don't know it. And that's also, I want to encourage all of you, never give up on innovation or the creative process because the world will not agree with you at first. But if you hold them to if you just hold the space open, people start to realize this is where we were designed to be here. This is how we, as humans, and that's what I love about the design thinking process. It's just who we are. But we forget it because we live in a very Newtonian world. But if you hold the space and allow people to emerge and allow people to really be who they are and bring their voice, the world changes. It's very inspiring. Yes?
It seems like a lot of what you're trying to do is change policy and regulations at the hospital. Does your lab deal with the technological aspect of introducing technology to better these things as well?
Well, we can actually deal with anything in the lab, and we don't have the answers to, like, I don't have a healthcare background, so I don't actually, if they're coming into whatever their project might be, we help them through the process, and we've had a couple projects that have, like, the blood draw, change the way that they do draw blood, or just a variety of different things like that. Now, up to this point, we have not made anything like a device, but that might be coming. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering how much has technology changed in hospitals, and if that's part of what your lab is trying to do.
Oh, right.
Put those things into the hospital so they can leverage them.
Yes, in Florida Hospital, we link with some other labs that are like the research center. Like if you were to have surgery and tissue they would examine that, and some of the things that come out of there. Florida Hospital is an amazing hospital. It's huge, and they have some. We have a prototype machine that actually can prototype things that, if ever you have a chance to see a 3D prototype machine, will blow your mind. It's just, but yeah. Yes, to answer your question. But our lab, we really do hold them to the process. They do their own, if you know what I mean.
Karen,
Yes.
I like your description of the location of your lab and like the materials and the design of it. How it's in a different space.
Oh, right. Oh, you want me to talk a little bit? Okay. The lab is in the oldest part of the hospital, and in fact, it's a wing that was decommissioned. And when we first were talking about doing this lab, the CEO said, I think we can put it in the Morgan wing. And we were saying, are you kidding? Nobody wants to be there, that dark, old, dusty place. And it actually has doors at each end that was just closed down. And when I went down the first evening to see where it was, I couldn't even have gotten back because it's over and under and through. And if you've been to Florida Hospital, you know, it's huge. The room was piled with boxes. I don't think it had been in there for years, and it was dark and very, very archaic looking. So we cleared it all out. The team, we just decided to make every space different from the hospital space. So for example, it has a cork floor. cork is nowhere else in the hospital. The colors, it has some bright colors that don't exist anywhere else in the hospital. It has floor-to-ceiling whiteboards. And it's interesting, when we got there, and it kind of started brightening up, and we had some contractors coming in and helping us reorganize it. We heard the Healthy 100 wanted to be on that wing now, and now people are saying, we want to be on the Morgan wing. And at first, when one of the leaders from the other hospital said, wow, who's going to come to that lab because it's on that old wing and no one ever goes there. Well, it seems like we have a lot of traffic coming there now. And it just again shows people want to be innovative. And I think for me, one of a big takeaway, we've only been open for 8 months, is that everybody wants to be involved in innovation or creative process, because I think it's who we are. And it's people just become alive. Well, that's good for a hospital too. So, yes.
How are you, granted you're in your infancy there, how are you measuring these successes?
What we're doing is, we have some of the research people are working with us. Maybe they're very eager to come. Are you capturing everything? Are you getting everything? And we're capturing them in a couple different ways. The CEO was very, very concerned that we did not get too data-driven. He said, there's going to be things that we do that we're not going to be able to measure, and we don't know why they got better. And he is David Banks, and he has a social work background. And so he was very interested in keeping that. Sometimes things get better and we don't have to know the reason why. Okay, now that doesn't always set well with the researchers. No, we always have to know why. So we are actually capturing a lot of data as to like what changed, HCAP scores, the Gallup scores. Also, one example would be overtime. A project was in on a wing, wanted to reduce overtime, measuring before and measuring after. Some of the ED is measuring length of time it's taking to get through, collections going up, collections going down, that kind of thing. The more black and white side.
I just wanted to say to that question, the interesting thing that has occurred as Karen came into all of our lives is that hospitals historically operate sort of really, truly Newtonian, more like a prison. And so now that the culture was changed and it's measurable if you're there, and there's a nurse, a doctor, any other department, and a patient and a family, because people are changing rapidly. And I don't understand. Really, some of it is just, it is what it is. The whole projects that I've been involved in, we now in surgery, we've completely changed. We haven't even finished rolling out the prototype, but
Right.
our codes have changed.
Right.
Just from the awareness and people being talked about how you give permission. So Karen comes in, blows the whole hospital away with this idea of creativity, which we all know is now part of every business, and giving everyone permission. They get permission to opt out, they get permission to opt in, they get permission to speak up, they get permission to be
Right.
creative. And we've never, I'm 26 years veteran.
Right.
It's never.
In fact, when Kathy was in the room when remember, I don't come from healthcare background, so I thought everyone knew they had permission. And remember when I said that, I was in a room, I said, now one really, about the lab, everyone has permission to participate. And Kathy really leaned her head back and said, okay, about fell off her chair laughing. Really? Well, but not just permission, but responsibility. And that's the thing that I really want the people, anyone that's coming to the lab, they have permission to participate. But with permission comes responsibility. And responsibility looks like this. We're in a team, we're an innovation team working. And you might not like what you're hearing or where they're going. Okay, so you don't speak up. That's hijacking the group. And I tell the groups are hijacked by overbearing people, controlling people, outspoken people, but they're equally hijacked by silent people. Or I'm not getting involved, I'm not going to say that, I'm not putting my neck on the line. And so we said you have to really embrace this gift you're given. Permission, but with that permission, be responsible. And we've developed a few things. They're not unique to us, but for example, engagement scores with groups, because people really have to start understanding they do have that permission. Because if you've never worked in a place that gives you that, I realize that they don't even know what it looks like. Because if you've always been in a creative environment, you just know it. So what we've done, and we learned this from the University of Denmark's Chaos Pilots lab, that how engaged does everyone feel right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, hold up your fingers, and any number is okay. And so people do this, and it's interesting. People do it, and they say, I mean, if we just said, how do you guys feel right now, or what, they might just sit there, but they hold their hands up and say someone's a 6. We'd say, what would get you to a 10? And they'll say it. And so we actually are committed to help them being responsible too. And of course, some people are 10, that's good. Some people say we're 12. But we want to actually always watch the fire in the eyes. When the fire in the eyes goes out, it's like, okay, I don't want to be involved. It's too risky. But the CEO, he'll come in. He just comes and goes. In fact, one day we were writing things on the whiteboard, and one of the participants said, can I really just say this? And I said, sure. This is what we're here for. The CEO would want you to do that. And he said, okay, if I write this on the board, is he going to walk in? I thought, probably not. Well, okay, he writes on the board, and who comes around the corner just then is David Banks. But he liked it, so. But it's what I think is so exciting. It's a journey. And if we start here and we move an inch, that's better than we were. And we move 2 inches, and that's even more exciting. But we've had people come in and say, I don't even recognize where I work anymore because people have transformed. And that is very, very exciting to me. Because I think if you just get the space right, people know what to do.
Can you talk about your facilitators, training,
Yeah.
facilitators?
Well, and that's been a process too. We're still prototyping that. When we started out, we had the idea that our facilitators would be people in the hospital, like Kathy, for example, the 12 on the team. And that worked well at first. And we taught them design thinking, but also design thinking is not heavy on facilitation. But we had to have facilitators because if a nurse is coming right off the floor, we had to have people help them through the design thinking process. And so we trained the 12, but they're so busy that it didn't work as well as we wanted because it just, like Kathy, for example, is in surgery, and her department has grown in the last year 40%, and so she's not as free as she used to be. So we're really moving more to a facilitators in the lab. That's what they'll do. And they'll just help people through design thinking. But the original 12 are so vital to the lab because I don't have a healthcare background. Thomas, one of our full-time workers in the lab, he doesn't have a healthcare background. Michelle, who coordinates all the schedules for teams coming in, she doesn't have a healthcare background. So we are a really powerful team there with no healthcare background. So when people come in, it's a plus because we don't have a bias up towards, but the 12, we are finding the 12 that started, they are so valuable because they can bring so much knowledge. We can bring the innovation knowledge, but they actually make it work. And so it's very powerful because it's highly collaborative. And so just this week we hired another full-time facilitator, and that's all she'll do. Actually, she does have a healthcare background. Maybe that'll be good. But actually, we find the facilitators, they just have to help through the process. And it's better when sometimes they don't weigh in. And that was another thing. When we had some of the 12 facilitating, they knew a lot about healthcare, and when the teams were brainstorming a certain way, it's like, whoa, that's really out there. And they were finding they actually were tripping up a little on their own biases. So anyway, we are all about growing. We are open to any feedback. I was happy to say we just did a survey, and we are 3 questions that were important to me. Did it help you solve your problem when you came to Florida Hospital Innovation Lab? Actually, that's affectionately called Phil. Did you learn anything you could take back to your workspace or your unit? And would you recommend to come back? And I really expected to be around a 4 or a 5 because we are prototyping and we're so different. But all 3 of those came back. on a scale of 0 to 10, 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3. So we felt very humbled by that. And so, yes.
Has anyone ever come in with perceived opportunities rather than problems?
You mean they come in with solutions? Is that what you mean?
You know, they might say, I think there's an opportunity here that we're not taking advantage of. To help them think that through whether or not there's a way to put it through for
You mean like someone would say, instead of saying this is a problem, oh, right, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's actually, we moved it more to the word challenges / opportunities. And we originally were starting with getting a problem definition, but now it's an opportunity definition. We're trying to go to that more, because it's, yeah, people will say, we don't have a problem necessarily, but we see something we could be doing more of. And yeah, it's exciting, right? Yes.
I've got two questions actually. So the first one, you mentioned this is only about 8 months old, and I haven't been able to figure out from how you've been talking about it. Were you at the hospital before the start, or were you brought in to start this?
Right. I was not at the hospital before. And yeah, they just, actually, the idea was we'd come in and get it going in about 6 months, and then we said it'll just take off and go run on its own. And yeah, we started with great naivety. But the thing why they had me come in is I was doing, just finishing my PhD in innovation and creativity, and I felt it was a wonderful blessing in life that I was having this opportunity. So I made it really clear that I was coming in also very new to the field. And my background is educational psychology, and I worked in higher ed for a lot of years, helping students be successful, and creating programs to help students be successful. Also creating programs to help parents let their children go. It's amazing. Maybe that never happened to you guys, but parents sometimes do not want to let their kids go and would interfere with their success at college. But anyway, so actually that's what got me interested in learning how to help people unleash their natural creativity. And we believe in the lab, everyone's creative and everyone has leadership potential. And the lab exists to help people ignite that and to access the creative capacity and intellectual capacity of the whole hospital.
One more question? I'll give it to someone else.
Oh, Diana?
I'm curious to hear how people are saying this is impacting their relationships and their experiences outside of that.
Well, what we've heard, we have a couple sayings that might sound trite. In fact, we were sort of joking about it, like, don't be married to an idea. It's like, okay, yeah, who doesn't know that? That's a silly saying. So, but we had someone gave us a sign that says that, with, don't be married to an idea. Actually, two people arguing. We thought, are people going to like this sign? So actually, I did not move beyond my bias, and I said actually Kathy and I together said, it was up for a while. We took it down, and someone came and said, hey, where's that sign? Don't be married to an idea, because we've been using that in our unit. We say that all the time. We hear things like that. The little sound bites that we've been trying to teach them, they take those out, and it seems to be helpful. Another thing that happened with our improv, our applied improv, when we start every group, every time when they come in, we have learned different improv. We have SAC University helping us, and we will do the first 6 minutes some improv activity. And the other day, one of the directors came in and said, Karen, I got to tell you, when we did our project here, I went to those, our group, we went through those activities with you, and I thought they were stupid, but I supported you. But the other day, I was working on my unit, and we were having a committee meeting, and nobody was connecting. So I said, all right, let's just try one of Karen's stupid activities. And he said, I came over to tell you it worked, it changed. And the ED has told us that they've been using some of those improv, they're like 3 minutes. And Kathy, maybe you want to respond to that too. We just hear people say, we have now some tools, empathy too. Empathy and design thinking is a really big deal. I hear people always talking about empathy now. We got to get empathy before we make a decision.
Well, I actually took my unit there because we were struggling with our growth and people were working a lot of overtime. time, so instead of having a meeting, we went to the innovation lab, where we don't have meetings, so we had a power hour and innovated. And it was hard for me to sit there and listen and watch what they got in the groups. We had already done some stuff innovation on sports, and they got right to it. And it's interesting how nurses and other healthcare workers, boom, they'll get
Right.
they get right with the process, and it's changed our, they're always saying, oh, you want something to feel that? And I just want
Right.
to sometimes go back to work. But
Or like, and
everyone in my unit has changed my relationship with my husband and my family. And we started with design thinking, but really there was a brand that Karen had brought to Florida Hospital, and things changed so much. There's a real commitment to constant forward motion and moving, and so things evolve and change and morph all the time. And it's different for the hospital, but it is completely different.
well, one thing, and it's so exciting because I just believe it's people are doing it. It's not, we're just providing the space and a few instructions, and it sets with people because it's who they really are. One thing we tell people when they come in that we have a check-in process. When you come in, you check in to openness, but we have open mind, rejects the voice of judgment, open heart, rejects the voice of cynicism, open will, rejects the voice of fear. And when you commit to that openness, you have a bias towards action. You will actually start to move. And when you are in that bias towards action mode, you actually are open to feedback. In fact, you're looking for feedback. And that's a big thing that fail fast and cheap, that's not with us. That's the big innovators in the world, have embraced that concept. That quickly get feedback so you can fail quickly and then move on to the next level. And the administrator the other day told me, he said, Karen, of all the initiatives we've started, this innovation lab has made the biggest impact. And we've had the opportunity and the privilege to go to some Florida hospital meetings with some of the high-level leaders and do some design thinking. And the feedback we've gotten is when we've done that with them, they have actually had so many ideas, and they've just worked in a different way instead of just sitting in chairs where one person's sitting up front. But I really want to encourage all of you to just embrace the concept of innovation, because people will move with you, because it's who we are. So move beyond your habitual ways of thinking and acting and embrace your gift to the world that you have, because if you don't give your gift, it'll be lost to the world forever, because you're the only one that can give it. So create a space where you can emerge and allow others to do the same. So that's